Today I'm going to talk about your browser, the most important app that you use. My name is Hewie Poplock. I'm sitting in Bradenton, Florida. This past October, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Internet. It was born on October 29th, 1969 at UCLA. On the evening of October 29th that year, a student at the University of California, Los Angeles, sent the first message over ARPANET, the forerunner of the Internet, with just two letters, LO. The system then crashed. The student, Charlie Klein, had tried to type login. It did work on the second try. So we've been having these kind of issues since day one. Anyway, Sir Tim Berners-Lee made a proposal for an information management system on March 12th, 1989, and he first implemented the first successful communication between Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP client, and server via the Internet in mid-November of that same year, 1989. Then in those time periods, we were doing BBSs. I'm going to go through this quite quickly. This was a screen that I had for my BBS. Several other BBSs might have looked like this when you logged on. My website, my first website, let's see, the first time I got online was at Netscape Navigator. And this was my first website in 1995. This is what it looked like early on. And this is what the code looked like at the time. I used a program called NetObjects Fusion to set it up. This is what the website looks like today. Okay, a web browser, or simply browser, is an application used to access and view websites. Do you need help? Nope, just browsing. Early web browsers such as Mosaic and Netscape Navigator were simple applications that rendered HTML, processed form input, and supported bookmarks. I recall going to the University of Central Florida in Orlando and sitting in a big hall while somebody was presenting using Netscape Navigator, and his statement at that time was, there's still not a Windows version of this program, but it will be coming out shortly, and he was doing it on an Apple computer. And it was still new, so new that Windows didn't have a browser. But as websites have evolved, so have the web browser requirements. Today's browsers support HTML, such as HTML and HTML5, dynamic JavaScript, encryption, used by secure websites, and much more, including CSS and so many other things. Browser compatibility issues can be a problem. Since browsers use different rendering engines, websites may not appear the same across multiple browsers. The primary function of a web browser is to render the HTML, the code used to design or mark up the web pages. These are some of the major browsers you may recognize, and you may be using one or more. And here are some more icons of various browsers that are available. So there's a lot of them out there. One, you may be, if you're a Windows person, you may be familiar with Internet Explorer. Then it became Microsoft Edge, and now it's the new Microsoft Edge, sometimes known as CREDGE, because it's based on the Chromium the Chrome browser, or Chromium browser. The new Chromium-based Edge has arrived on Windows 10 Home and Pro versions, and that started January 15th. When it updates, the old version of Edge will be removed. It will be available for Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows 8, and Mac OS. Only business users, not consumers, will have the option to prevent the update and keep the current Edge browser. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but it may be. However, mine still, as of a couple of days ago, mine had not been updated, and I had done some updates on my Windows 10, and it has not appeared. So I went and I downloaded it. So you can go to Microsoft.com, find the Edge website, and download it and install it. And when you do, it does remove the old version of Edge, and you'll have strictly the Chromium-based Edge. I'm going to talk more about Edge in a little bit. Without a browser, here's what a web page would look like, and let's play the video for that. This is the code for one web page. Obviously, it wouldn't be fun trying to code all of that by hand. There are some people who do. There are programs out there that will create the code for you with a WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get. You can arrange things on the screen and it will produce the code that you're seeing. Now, as soon as it finishes, we will go to the next screen. So using a browser, that same code that was the actual code from this website. And this is what all of that code was telling us to look at. And that's what a browser does. It interprets all of that code and produces this screen. Most browsers look and feel similar. Even the settings are similar. I'll be using the Chrome browser for most of this presentation, but I will give you a couple of some screens and some information about a couple of the others, but they're all quite similar. Here is a typical browser page. Just because it says Google on there, it doesn't mean that has to be the page that you look at. It doesn't have to be the home page, and I happen to use that as my home page. So let's look at the header of a typical browser, in this case Chrome. First one is the tab, and you can have as many tabs as you want open at one time. I was listening to a podcast the other day where one person on the podcast was saying that he has had as many as several hundred tabs open. Why? I have no idea, but sometimes I'll have 15 or 20 open depending upon a project I'm working on. Or you can add a tab, so you can keep adding more tabs. You can actually open up your browser and have several tabs automatically open up as well. The forward and back, because these are grayed out at this point, because when I took this screen capture, I had not been at other pages, but they would be black, and you could go in either direction to go forward and backwards. That's your reload button. If you need to reload or refresh your screen, you click that and it will go out, get the information, and bring it back to your computer. Your URL or search line is where it's pointing now. Then you have your bookmarks bar. That's the entire bar along the bottom of that. Then you have the distill page. This is something with Chrome. And I'm going to talk about the distill page, and I'm also going to talk about something similar in the Chrome version of Edge as well. That's where you would bookmark. In Edge, it's called Favorites. And then I have other bookmarks. So you can manage your bookmarks in several ways. You can have several groups of bookmarks. The bookmarks bar, you can have other bookmarks, you can give it, you can have groupings of them as well. Then you can have extensions or add-ons, and I'm going to talk about that coming up. You can have what user, what email address are you logged in under? What's your user for that particular website, or their browser at that particular time. I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Then you have your menu button, and I'm going to go into a little explanation of each of these now. So first, the bookmarks bar, that's the bar along the bottom here, and it's going to be whatever you want it to be. These can be in any order, as you can see, and you can actually change the order. So let's say I have the CB4S mail. I want it up here all I have to do is drag it and it will go back to the beginning. I can manage where it's going to be on the list. So the ones that show up here, I can adjust so whatever ones I want. And then under other bookmarks, there is a listing of other bookmarks there. And again, those can be adjusted as to how they are in order as well. Now the menu button, the 3 dots in Chrome, in some of the browsers it's 3 lines, but you'll see that there are several things in that under that menu. Okay, cream, bread, cake, meatloaf, black-eyed peas. Wait, this isn't my grocery list. It's my playlist. Okay, so let's look at some typical settings. Many browsers can sync between devices. Note the arrow, and then also note that the arrow indicator that signifies more choices or information when you're looking at the settings. So I like the syncing between devices. So when I save a bookmark on my Chromebook, when I go to my desktop, which is what I'm on right now, and the bookmark that I added on the Chromebook is also going to show as a bookmark on my Windows machine. So I have syncing turned on, so it will say turn off. So if I wanted to turn it off, I would click there, and then it says syncing to, and it gives me the email address. So I have syncing turned on. Your browser can be set to autofill information such as passwords, credit card information, and addresses. So your passwords can be shown. Notice, again, that little arrow means there's more information there. Payment methods, addresses, and more. So when I click on passwords, do you want it to offer to save your passwords? When you go to a website and it says, okay, create a password, or if it wants you to log in, it may say, do you want to save this password? That's because I have that turned on. If it's not asking you that and you want it to, then go into your settings and turn it on. If it asks you and you don't ever want to have your browser save the passwords, go in and turn that feature off. And then you can also have auto sign in, and then you'll see at the bottom are saved passwords, and let's look at what that is. So it looks like this. So there is a list of all of the websites that you go to in the browser, but they at one time this was a text file and it no longer is. So you can now feel a little bit more safe in saving it on your computer. And I'll show you one of the reasons why here in just a moment. Number one, you can't see the password. But if you click on the I next to one of these, what happens is the first thing, and this is why it is safe, is Google Chrome is trying to show your passwords. Type your Windows password to allow this. I have my password set for a PIN, so if I type in my PIN, then it will show what that password is. Now I've got it grayed out because I certainly don't want you to see my password, but you'll see now there is a line through the I. So in other words, it's showing you, and then it shows you what the password is. I have found when I've helped some of my neighbors, they couldn't remember certain passwords. When I was able to get into this file, I found some of the passwords they used. In a lot of cases, they use the same ones over and over again, so it made it a little easier for me. But I certainly don't recommend that. But it has helped me a few times when I've been trying to help them locate passwords and get on to certain pages. Okay, some other choices in your settings. You got themes, you got show home button. So if I wanted the home button to show, I click that and turn it on, and then up here there'll be a home button. Show bookmarks bar. In other words, if I didn't want that bar along here, I can actually shut that off and it won't show. They don't go away. I just have to click on the settings and then go in and find my bookmarks and find the bookmark bar, and they'll all be there. They just aren't going to be showing all of the time. Page zoom. These are some tricks. There are several ways in which you can zoom in on a page. You can make it bigger, make it smaller, but hold your control key down and then hit the plus sign to make it bigger, and the control key minus and make it smaller. This is used in a lot of different programs, but it does work on almost all of the browsers that I've ever worked with. You can determine which search engine to use in the search bar in your settings. So here in Chrome is a search engine, so I don't have to use Google as my search engine if I don't want to. There's a drop down here, and it'll say Google, it'll say Bing, it'll say DuckDuckGo, and if it doesn't, you can add other ones as well that that you might like, and then you can manage your search engines as well. And boy, I think a lot of us sometimes think about doing this with a newspaper or a magazine, and that's hold our fingers over a picture and try to enlarge it. Okay, on startup, when you start your browser, what pages do you want open? Well, in Chrome, you can open a new tab page. You can continue where you left off, or you can open specific pages or set of pages or page. And what I do is I use a specific set of pages or page. So let's say I want to add a new page or use the current pages. So here's, I wanted several pages to open up. I list them all in the sets of pages and then save that. When I close it, it automatically saves it. So the next time I open up my Google Chrome browser, Google will be in one tab, Facebook will be in another, my inbox from my Gmail account and my inbox from another Gmail account, informed delivery from the post office, and the APCUG website will all have tabs and will open at the same time that I start my browser. So that's a good trick to know. So if every time you open your browser and you go from, and then you have to keep opening the same websites each time you go online, if you do this, they'll open up automatically and you just switch from one tab to the other. What I'm showing you is what I've been showing you are close-ups of a very long page, and this is just showing you what that long page looks like for all of these settings. What about extensions and add-ons? Well, when you click the menu under More Tools, then you have extensions. Let's look at a few that I use. Acrobat, Adobe Acrobat, Bitly, Amisoft, which is the antivirus that I happen to use on this machine, Evernote Web Clipper, and so on. And these are all turned on. These are extensions that I use every day or I have available, and I'm going to talk about each one of these in just a moment. So these are the extensions. So let's install one. Just to show you how easy it is to do that, I'm going to add AdBlocker Plus. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Chrome Web Store and I'm going to search for AdBlocker. There's tons of them. Be careful which ones you choose. One of the things you want to do is do some research and then look at each one to decide which one you want. But here's the one I want, is AdBlock Plus free and AdBlock. Notice there is 168,321 reviews. And when I click on it, it shows me that there's over 10 million users. This is the one I'm looking for. It's the one that's popular. I click on Add to Chrome. When I do, it says, okay, do you want to do that? And I say Add Extension. So I click on Add Extension. When it's done, it says it's installed it. Okay, and so what does AdBlocker Plus do? Well, here is a website from PC Magazine. You'll notice there's an ad at the top, there's an ad on the side. This is before AdBlocker Plus. With AdBlocker, you'll see there's no ad at the top, and these are just articles that are on the website. There are no ads over here, so they've cut those ads out. You'll notice that the AdBlocker Plus logo is up here in the top where the extensions are all showing. And then the number 47 that's there is showing us that there's 47 items that it blocked. on the page. That's amazing. So that particular web page has 47 ads on it, and I just blocked them. Okay, now I mentioned earlier about distilling a page. You can get to that also from the menu, or you can click on the 3 lines next to the URL. And when you do that, what happens is it really not only gets rid of ads, but it gets rid of all the menus, all of the local stuff, and just shows you the article. And that's what this article, that's the same article, but it's in the distilled format, which you can then print out or save it as just that, so you don't get all of the others. So if you wanted to print and not have all the ads for whatever reason, or if you want to copy and paste, it just makes it so it makes it a lot easier to do. Another extension that I use a lot, and some of you have seen my presentation on Evernote. Actually, I've had a couple of them that I've done. I live by Evernote, and so if I want to save this as an Evernote, I can save it as exact same page, or I can put it in a simplified format, which is similar to the distilled version of the page that Chrome does. Evernote does something similar and saves that and puts it in my Evernote. Another is Adobe Acrobat. And so when I'm on a page, I can convert a web page to a PDF. I can add it to an existing PDF, and so on by clicking the Adobe Acrobat add-on. The next one is my eWallet AutoPass, and I have since also added LastPass, and this is where I can pick up and use passwords that are in my password manager. Another program that I use extracts a list of URLs, so I can add an entire list of URLs, and then when I push this button, it shows the list, and when I click it, it will open all of them at one time. So if you're doing a project, you need to open a whole bunch, that's a good utility. Your password checkup extension is another one that goes out and checks your password to find out if it's, you may need to change it because of some kind of an issue because of a breach. Another one I use is called the WOT, or the World of Trust, and it has user ratings for websites. If it has a red mark, let's see if I have that. Yeah, if I go to a website and this pops up, I usually don't go to that website, depending upon whether I know it's safe or not. But there's potentially unwanted programs or a scam or something on that website that people have, users have indicated that there's a problem with. So it's just a warning. Sometimes it's a false warning, but you still, it's a good stopping point. Well, do I want to go further or not, so I can check on it. I talked about user accounts. Well, when I open up my browser, it opens up to this particular user account. It's got an H there. Okay, I want to switch accounts. Well, before I do that, let me show you the 9 dots opens up all of the Google choices, and there's, if you'll notice at the bottom, there's more, so you can look at several others. But if I click on the user, I can change the account that page is showing. So if it's the wrong one for Gmail and so on, I can go to one of my other Gmail accounts and click on it, and it will change to that account. Another add-on I have is Grammarly. And here's the icon for it in my add-ons. It's I'm using the free version, but there is a paid that does more. But I just use the free. Let me show you what it does. Okay, sometimes you can check for writing suggestions and so on, but that's not what I'm going to do with it. I am going to go, excuse me, I'm going to post an article on Facebook. And what I do, I type it in, and I've got some problems here that the Grammarly has picked up on and has marked it in red. Now, one of these, I really didn't notice what it is, but let's see what they are. The first one, when I put my mouse over the A-D-A-Y, it says, oh, wait a minute, that really should be A space day. If I click the A-D-A-Y, in other words, the example in green here, when I click it, it makes the change, and then goes to the next one. I didn't catch that I forgot the N in a technology when I was typing, or I missed it. So if I click the green technology, it changes it and then goes to the next item, which is, oh, I need a space between the period and the word the. And so I go ahead and click that, and it fixes it, and then I can add it to my Facebook. All right, let's look at Firefox now. These are the settings in Firefox, what it looks like. It looks very similar to the Chrome browser. You'll see it says add-ons. There's a few, some of the terms are a little bit different, but it's quite similar. Firefox is not your default browser. Always check to see if it is. You can click that, and you can make it your default browser if you want. On the startup, if you want, what do you want the homepage to look like? Would you want it to be, so in this way, they add it a little bit different, but it does the same thing. You can open up multiple tabs when you start Facebook. Search bar, you can change what you want in the search bar, how you want it to look, what you want the default search engine. In other words, similar to what Chrome was. And you can also, with Firefox, can sync it with your other devices. Again, so if you save something in your browser, in your Firefox on your phone, it's going to save it. And so when you get on your computer, your desktop computer, your laptop computer, that same information will be there. And you can have extensions. I've got the Evernote Web Clipper. I will not consider using a browser unless it has that ability, because I live with Evernote. I've got over 15,000 notes in my Evernote, and I use it for everything. And that's a different story, though. But you can have, you can enable or disable as you please, and I could have all of the same extensions if they were available in Firefox, and most are available in multiple browsers, and I could have them in here as well. The new Microsoft Edge, I mentioned earlier, I just added this morning. This is what the new Edge looks like. It is based on Chrome, so almost everything is Chrome, similar to Chrome, but there are a few differences. When you install the new Edge, it says let it set up your browser with your data. It says import from Google Chrome. If you say yes, that's what you want to do, it goes to Google Chrome and says, okay, do you want the bookmarks? Do you want the addresses and more? Do you want the browser history, open, tab, save? In other words, it'll bring everything that's in your Chrome into your Microsoft Edge, and you can just start using Edge like you're using Chrome. Similar to the distill page in Chrome, Edge has something called the Edge Immersive Reader. It doesn't show up on every page, not as many as you do with the, the distill page in Chrome, but when it does, it is really neat. And so when you click on it, it's going to look something like this. Now, what I want to show you is I have a little video here. Now, the audio may not totally match because I don't have it set to do that, but let me just show you. This is what the page looks like. Now, I am going to click on the Immerse Reader. And this is what it looks like. So it does really clean it up nicely, but it has another aspect to it that the Chrome doesn't, and that is read aloud. So let's take a listen.
How to connect your laptop to your TV. Sometimes your laptop screen just isn't big enough. Here are the best ways to put movies, music, and games from your PC on your TV.
What do you need to connect your laptop to your TV? If you're like me, you watch a lot of movies and TV shows on your computer.
Computer. It's still the ultimate media machine, capable of playing any file format and outputting to any device with the right cables.
It's also the ultimate video game system, able to...
So as you can see, it'll read to you as well in this. And you can change the voice if you don't like the voices. And then all of the other ones from other countries, they're not in that language. They're English, but with accents. So if you go to an Indian dialect, what you're going to get is a person with an Indian, in English, with an Indian accent, or with an Oriental accent, depending upon the voice that you choose. Very neatly done. And as I said, this isn't available for every page, but it certainly is nice if you want to listen, or if you have a hard time seeing a web page or being able to view, if you have some eye issues. Okay, let's go back to Chrome now. There's also an incognito window in Chrome, and some of the other browsers are doing similar items, but what the incognito allows you, Chrome won't save the following information: your browsing history, cookies and site data, information entered in forms, websites you visit, your employer or school, and your internet service provider. In other words, it lets you go, so not all the information that would normally be picked up by the browser will be able to be seen. Okay, cookies. Cookies are very small text files placed on your computer by a web server. Not all websites place cookies. A web server doesn't have to repeatedly request this information, potentially slowing down time. That information is there for them. What does a cookie look like? Well, it usually will be named something like abc@example.com.text. If you were to open one of these files, it would look just like some random numbers. It would look like something like this. The strings of numbers are codes which are only meaningful to the software that generated it. Usually it's a little more than a unique identifying string, although sometimes they're used for data storage. In other words, when you go to a website, you fill out a form, and something happens, you have to go back to that form. If the website is saving cookies, that information will still be there. If not, you got to start all over again. Either way, there's usually nothing meaningful when viewing a cookie file. Cookies store personal registration data, your name, your address, the contents of a shopping cart, your preferred layout for a page, what map you might be looking at, and so on. So if you're on Amazon, or you're on some website that you're placing an order, and you stop it and you just leave it, and then you go back to it a couple of days later and it says, okay, you got 3 items in your cart. You open the cart and there they are. It's your cookie. Usually it's the cookies that save that information. Cookies make it easy for a web server to personalize information to fit your specific needs. Sometimes it might say, welcome back, Hewie. We see that you were here last week. And did you find what you were looking for, and so on. And preferences when you're visiting a website. Okay, so I hope you've not been sleeping, and I'm sure you've got a lot of questions. And David, if you're there, are there any questions in the chat box?
Okay, just got 2 at the moment. The first one is, will the new MS browser retain your previous bookmarks in Edge?
I believe it will do that as well. And if you remember that Edge and the new Edge as well, sometimes known as Credge, the combination of Chrome and Edge, although Microsoft doesn't like that term, some of the pundits have been calling it that. Anyway, the Credge does call them favorites and not bookmarks, but I believe, yes, your old settings will be there as well.
Okay. Then, okay. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. What is the difference between an add-on and an extension?
The term. They're pretty much the same. It may be something to do with the way they're written. I don't know, but they're interchangeable as far as for most people.
Okay. Can a browser like Yahoo be deleted?
Yeah, you want to install it. It's just an app or a program, and you can delete them. You can add more. You can have more than one on your computer. I have Firefox, Chrome, trying to think of the other one, Edge, and sometimes I'll have 2 or 3 more. And the reason why is sometimes, you know, I've gone to bank websites and tried to do something, or like in Chrome, sometimes I've got pop-ups blocked, and when I go to a website and I'm buying something or I'm looking for more information, it's actually sending a pop-up of that information, and it won't work. And I try to shut off pop-ups for that particular site. I can't. I just go and I copy the URL, open it up in Firefox or one of the other browsers, open it up, put the address in, go to the same page, click on the same button, and bingo, there's a pop-up, there's the information I need, and I can click on it. So it works better in a different browser, or the settings I don't have the same, and I'm blocking something. So having multiple browsers on your computer not only can be, it can do that, but sometimes it can be helpful.
Okay. You just answered the last question here. Why have multiple browsers?
Yeah, another reason I do is I create some websites, but you might want to have different Facebook. You may have 2 Facebook accounts, one for you and one for your wife, or one for you and one for your husband. And you have got one set up in one browser for that person and one set up in the other for the other person. And then you can view and see if you've posted something, how it looks to somebody else. There are other ways to do it within Facebook, but and again, sometimes when you go to different websites, how something's going to look different. When I create a website, I need to know if it's going to look all right in one browser, in another, and now even with a lot of the website design programs can do either desktops or can do it so how it's going to look on your say on your phone, which has got a totally different size, what it's going to look like for that. So there's different reasons to have multiple browsers.
Okay. You got one person that says, how do you use a VPI on Chrome? And I don't know if he meant the Chrome browser or the Chrome operating system.
He's talking about a VPN?
Mm-hmm.
Totally different subject in a different way. That is running, being able to access the internet using a third-party program that hides where you're coming from, and you can actually use a server in a different country to access the internet, and that shouldn't make any difference as far as the browser goes, I don't think. I don't use a VPN. I don't have a need for it.
Okay. Please address incognito mode. I use it on my Chromebook to gain extra memory for intensive sites like web-based games.
I don't use it. So I really, there's not a lot I can say about it, except it does prevent some information that you would be automatically sending because you're using that browser. It doesn't tell the website information about what you're doing or who you are. It's a privacy issue, and that's pretty much it. It should work similarly on a Chromebook, and I don't think, and I could be totally wrong on this, but there may be some things about a Chromebook that you might not need it, but even if you do, it should work fine.
Okay. Some of these I'm reading, I think you've addressed. Does using Edge require you to tie into the whole MS universe with passwords, etc.?
No, no, you can run Edge on. I don't know whether it's totally available yet. I know they're letting it out in stages, but their goal is to have it so you can have it on a Mac, iOS, you can have it on Android, and you can have it on iOS. In other words, run it on an iPad or an iPhone. I tried to find it for my Chromebook, and I did not find the Android version yet for the Chromebook, and I have not tried it on my phone, my Samsung phone.
Okay.
But it's coming if it's not there yet.
Okay. This is a two-parter that I'm just going to ask you the first part, because I don't think we have time for the second part. Is one browser more secure than the others?
A lot of times I'll see articles saying one's faster than the other or one's more secure and so on. These things change from day to day. And so the answer today might be different tomorrow, which also might be different than yesterday. So the answer is you need to be aware of your security, your setups, the information that you use when you go to a website. And it's not so much the browser being secure, it's what you have to be careful of and the information that you allow.
Okay. Okay, we got several editorials in here. But as I said, we don't need to run through them. I'm just taking the questions. As I said, what led Microsoft to update Edge with the Chrome wrapper? I don't know if you know the answer to that one or not.
Well, I've listened to a lot of podcasts about it. Basically, Microsoft admitted they just can't come up with the right browser without spending a lot of time and effort on it. And Chrome seems to be very well done, and it's most of it's in the public domain, and so they can make some changes. They can add to the changes. So you may see some of the things that Microsoft comes up with show up in the Chrome for an Android machine. So they just felt that they've changed their philosophy a lot, and they're joining the community as opposed to trying to create their own.
Okay. And it says, are you using Chrome's password manager along with LastPass? And add on to that is, how safe is Chrome's password manager now? And that's probably some dispute on that, but
I use the one built into Chrome. I use LastPass and I use eWallet. And the reason I've been using eWallet since I had a Palm Pilot, and have added it to all of my devices. And I recently found an article that told me how I could export the 1,300 different cards and passwords that I had in that over almost 20 years, where I could take that information, put it into a file, and then bring it into LastPass. And so I experimented with it. So now I have both. And so whenever I add a password, I have to go into both and add it to two different ones until I decide which one I'm going to stay with. Yes, I use multiple ways of storing these things, but I feel secure with all the ways that I'm using it.
okay. So if you had LastPass, when you're prompted to save a password, do you save it in Chrome or LastPass?
Yes. I usually save it in Chrome. The reason I don't do it directly into LastPass is because I rather add it manually, because a lot of times it comes up and asks me do I want to add it to LastPass, and I'm quite sure it's already in there, but I'm not sure why it's not recognizing it, and I don't need to have an extra one, and so I usually do it manually. But I would definitely say if you're starting from scratch, yeah, you could add it that way as well. The one thing you don't want to have is LastPass or RoboForm or whatever password manager that you use. Do not have it open up automatically with its own password. Otherwise, anybody getting onto your computer has access to everything that you have in those programs. And so if you walk away from your computer, or if they somehow can get past your original password in your computer, they've got the keys to the kingdom. So I do not recommend that you have your LastPass or e-wallet or whatever program it is be able, once you open it, to put its own password in automatically.
Okay, one last question. Do you have to enable distilled view in Chrome?
I don't believe so, but I think it'll just show up on what pages it's available for. But that's a good question. I don't have a definitive answer. Mine does, but I don't know if there's a setting you might be able to turn it off or not. So I don't know.
Okay, so if someone says they don't have it, that site may not support it.
That's correct.